Hi, welcome back. I'm Claudia, and today we're going to be designing and assembling a Groovy Halloween Cake Topper. I'm just going to jump right in and tell you what my process is. I do want to warn you, my video was cut off about 15-20 minutes into designing, so I'm going to provide as much information as I can, and if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comment box below. Whenever I get a custom order or I'm working on a new design, I jump into Etsy, Creative Fabrica, and Cricut Design Space for SVGs. This theme was suggested by one of my followers on Instagram, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I went on Etsy and I typed in Groovy Halloween SVG, and I just started looking at different SVGs that were already out there, and I wanted to see, am I going to purchase something unique or am I going to put something together on my own? And that's what I ended up doing. I received inspiration by two files that I saw, which was the one with the cat with the groovy glasses and the ghost with the hat. So I knew that I wanted to do some type of groovy desert cowboy ghost, and so I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, so I was going to head over to Design Space and see what free files I could receive from them. And by free, I mean I have access to them because I pay $9.99 a month, but I don't have to worry about paying for each file every single time I want to use one of their files on Cricut Design Space. I headed over to Cricut Design Space and typed in Groovy Halloween under images, and what that did was it pulled all Groovy and Halloween SVGs, and sometimes designers will do a Groovy Halloween theme, and you'll see in just a minute those two themes are pulled into one by designers and they create their own files. But I just scrolled. Sometimes this is what takes the longest because I don't really know what I wanted. I just knew that I want Groovy Halloween, and I was just kind of going to go with the flow and see what files I can get that I can work with, break apart, that would be similar to the files that I saw on Etsy. I didn't really find much under Groovy Halloween, so you'll see in just a minute that I went ahead and typed something else in there, and then finally I found the files that I was looking for. I typed in Groovy Pumpkin, and the idea behind that was I was going to look for a pumpkin that I can use and add groovy glasses to. And although there's a lot of pumpkins on Cricut Design Space, I wanted a pumpkin with a cutout of the mouth because I knew that I was going to cover the eyes with groovy glasses. So that's what I'm looking for. I didn't want to have to slice the mouth in, so I'm just scrolling and scrolling until I can find the perfect pumpkin. And these are the thoughts that I'm thinking of. I'm just like looking for the perfect pumpkin. If you can see, I went back to that one, but it's only a single layer, and I thought, you know what, let me just keep scrolling. I go back and forth looking for a pumpkin, and this is what it takes when we're designing, or at least when I'm designing. I'm just scrolling and scrolling, and sometimes I don't even end up using the image, which you'll see in a minute. I didn't even end up using the pumpkin. I finally found a pumpkin that worked for me, and I added it to my canvas. I'm going to shade out the eyes because remember, I want to add groovy glasses to my pumpkin. So what I'm going to do is click on the orange part and then go down to the bottom right, select contour, click on those two stars, and it's going to take out the eyes. And I'm going to use my file, my SVG that I have up on my Etsy. They're groovy glasses. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it apart and take out the extra pieces because I'm not going to make it into a shaker. I just want the groovy glass file, the shape of them, to add to the pumpkin. So you'll see here I'm going to break it apart and I'm going to remove all of the extra pieces. Again, I want to say that I didn't end up using this pumpkin, and if you're wondering, Claudia, why did you just show us that whole process? It's for the sake of showing you how I put together a cake topper. Sometimes I waste a lot of time, but if you end up picking up a tip from this video, I'm so happy for you. If you didn't know how to contour, well, now you know. I'm going back to Etsy and looking at the cat and the ghost and looking to see if there's any other files that I can potentially buy or get some inspiration from. And I realized I want to go hunting for that ghost and see what I can find. I want to state that I can very well go ahead and buy those files, but if you see, those bundles are a bundle of maybe 5-6 other files. I literally only wanted that cat and that ghost. I'm not going to spend $7 for SVGs that I'm not going to use. So in this situation, I went ahead and tried to use what I had in hand, which is Cricut Design Space. And I'm going to try to use their artwork as inspiration. I'm not copying them. I'm not taking a screenshot and editing it and using it as my own. I'm taking inspiration, and you'll see in just a minute, for my cake topper. So I want you guys to know the difference. I'm using their artwork as inspo, and I'm creating my own. I'm not stealing their artwork. I'm not snipping and editing it and fixing it here. Here I hit the jackpot. I realized this was the moment I realized that I hit the jackpot, because I love this ghost. It's giving me groovy vibes, and it's on Cricut Design Space. Okay, I know I stopped mid-sentence, but I just want to make that clear that I want you to understand the difference between inspiration and stealing someone's artwork, someone's design, okay? So I think that I just showed a very good example of receiving inspiration from artists by going back, looking at what I had, and making my own. In this case here, I used that groovy ghost, and I'm going to add a cowboy hat to it. I found the cowboy hat that I wanted, and I'm going to go ahead and just make a quick edit by duplicating it and contouring the cowboy hat. And what I wanted to do is make it two-tone. So you see that little cutout in the middle? I want that to be a different color. So I went ahead and contoured it, made it a solid color, and now I'm going to place it in the back. So when my Cricut cuts it, it's going to cut two of the cowboy hats, one a darker one with a cutout, and the second one is lighter. And look, it fits perfect on my ghost. For my ghost, I'm going to weld it so it's one piece, and when my Cricut cuts it, it's going to cut it just how you see it there with the eyes and the flowers. It's all welded together. And then I'm going to make a back piece to it, because right now it's just a black outline. I want the white to be in the back and the outline of the black with the flowers to be in the front. So I realized that I didn't click on the right one. I didn't duplicate it. So I went ahead and duplicated here, then contour, made it solid. I'm going to change it to white and put it in the back. So when my Cricut cuts it, it's going to cut two pieces to my ghost, one white and one with the black outline. Since we have layers that are white, I want to change my background. That way I'm able to see all of my layers. And if you don't know how to do that, you're going to go to the bottom of your screen towards the right. You're going to see a white square, and it's going to say blank canvas. Once you click on that, it's going to give you a color palette on the middle top part of your screen. You're going to click on the white square, and then it's going to give you all of the colors that you've used so far, and then your color palette. Go ahead and select a color and then click on your screen, and it's going to change your background that color. I use this whenever I'm dealing with white layers. I want to be able to see every layer, and of course, if you have a white canvas, you won't be able to see your white graphics. So that's why I changed the background of my color. Now I just want to put together my cake topper. I want to incorporate the groovy theme, so I'm going to add a daisy to my cowboy hat, and I'm going to begin looking for elements that I can start using for my cake topper. I knew that I wanted it to be groovy, obviously Halloween, but I wanted it to have that cowboy feel, so I wanted desert and I wanted a haunted house. because of course you have to have a haunted house in your Halloween cake topper. At least for me, that's what I wanted. So I wanted to use something that I haven't really seen out on, Instagram, on Etsy. A lot of my girlfriends are putting together cake toppers, so I really wanted to make it a little different than what I see out there right now. And I end up using one haunted house. It doesn't have too many layers. If there's anything that you take away from me, is I don't like things with too much detail. One, because I'm short on time. I don't have time to start cutting a billion little pieces for a haunted house. I'm going to go ahead and edit the graphic to make it fit me, and I don't have a billion pieces. So I knew that I wanted that. I wanted a creepy, eerie tree, so I went ahead and grabbed that one. And I'm going to just start piecing it all together and see what works, and see if we can get our cake topper going here and start putting it together. I picked up some desert pieces. I wanted a cactus or a cacti, and I wanted the scenic cactus feel to it. I thought this one was going to be the one I was going to work with. I even tried to edit it by slicing the cactus off because I wanted the bottom piece to be brown, like sand, and I wanted to add my own cactuses to this element. But I ended up wasting time. It didn't work out, and I actually found the perfect desert scenery for my cake toppers. So you'll see in a minute. I try to play with it, and again, this is what it takes to design in my head. I try to edit my graphics and see if I can make them my own and break them apart, and sometimes it doesn't work out, and yes, I spend 5-10 minutes working on it, and then I give up and say forget it, I'm going to use something else. So here what I'm doing is I grabbed a shape and I'm going to slice. I want this cactus off. I want to take it off, so I'm going to use the slice button and try to remove it. It ended up being a fail because I didn't slice it far enough or high enough. And then I realized, okay, let me try and look for another desert scenery. After scrolling and scrolling, I finally found the perfect desert scenery. And here's where my phone went black and stopped recording, which I'm so bummed because I really wanted to show you guys how I put my cake topper together. And once I realized that it stopped recording, I quickly turned it back on, and this is where I was in my design process. I grabbed that scenery, added it in front of the mansion, the creepy haunted house. I added the eerie tree to the side of it, and then place my ghost right in front of the haunted house. Then I grabbed some mushrooms because I thought, let me add mushrooms because it gives it that 70s groovy feel to it. I took off the groovy glasses off of that pumpkin and added to the black cat, which I found on Cricut Design Space. And then I added a moon, but then I changed it to a sun because I wanted it to have desert feel. And I know that the moon represents like Halloween and it gives it that Halloween feel, but I decided to do something different and just add a sun. So then I found this smiley sun, and I said this is perfect because smiley faces are totally groovy, and so I went ahead and added it to my canvas. I was this far into my design and I realized that I had not yet saved my cake topper, so I quickly hovered over the save button and saved my cake topper. And I'm not gonna lie, Cricut Design Space was running really slow at this point, and I was just so annoyed, and I ended up just stopping the recording. I was even gonna delete this whole video because I thought that it wouldn't look good because I didn't capture the whole design process. But I ended up just keeping it and hoping that one of you guys picks up a tip from this video and learns one thing, that is good enough for me. So I'm gonna let the video just play and show you how I assemble my Groovy Halloween Cake Topper, which I'm so proud. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think that I was gonna do anything Halloween themed this year just because time is not on my side, and this was honestly so random and very last minute. I just thought it would be fun to challenge myself to design something with no pre-existing thoughts or ideas of what I wanted to put together. It literally was just something that I put together, grabbed inspiration from Etsy, and just did what I normally do, is just put together a cake topper that I love, and I hope that you guys love too. Initially, I wanted this to be a 30-minute design, and I ended up going an hour of design time because the phone was blacking out, my phone battery was low, and Cricut Design Space was really slow. So there was a few interruptions, but overall, definitely want to say it was like about an hour of designing. What I ended up doing was I saved it and turned it off and said, I'm just going to get back to it tomorrow and work on it tomorrow. And so that's what I did. I got back to it and I ended up adding some things to it. I ended up taking off some things and changing the design. So I can't wait for you to see what it looks like put together. I seriously love this cake topper. I think it turned out so cute. I want to share some tips that I use when I put together my cake toppers, and hopefully someone can benefit from these tips. I get these questions on social media and I thought it'd be fun to answer them during this video. One of the questions that I get a lot is, how do I put my color palettes together and how do I pick my cardstock and things like that. And so I wanted to just share that I, for the most part, lean more towards muted colors. My style is more of like, or at least I aspire to have a style of a boho theme. On every cake topper, if I can make like a boho theme, and what that means to me is like more muted colors, more of like a mustard, darker brown type of color instead of like a bright yellow. I like more mauve pinks instead of like a bright pink, or like, you know, just your typical pinks that you see out there. I like more of a grayish black instead of like a, you know, really dark black. So those are just like what I interpret boho, and so I try to incorporate that into my themes. And so what I do to help pull those colors is I'll go to Google and type in whatever the theme is. Like in this case, it was Groovy Halloween. I typed in Groovy Halloween boho color palette, and whatever your theme is. So Mickey Mouse color palette, Cinderella color palette, Christmas color palette, whatever your theme is, just type in color palette. And for me, I always throw in boho because there are designers out there, especially on Etsy, that designate their shops to just putting color palettes together. And so it makes it easy for me once I see it, and then I'll go over to my section where I have all of my cardstock and start pulling all of the colors that I think match those colors on that color palette. So that's pretty it as far as how I pick colors. If I can't think of it on my own, I'll go on Google and search a color palette. Another question that I get a lot is, how do I create my cake toppers, or where do I pull inspiration from? And so I just showed you one example. I went to Etsy and I was looking for an SVG to buy for my cake topper. I didn't really know what I was looking for. I was just scrolling and I typed in Groovy Halloween SVG. And so that's pretty much what came up as far as Etsy, all of the different PNGs and SVGs. And I saw two graphics that really caught my eye, and I pretty much based it off of that. One was the cowboy ghost, and the other one was the black cat with the groovy glasses. Whenever I get requests for, let's say, a Disney themed cake topper, I will go back and watch the movie. I will go and look on Google, look for images, go on Etsy, look for images, and just start thinking about what I want to do. when I go to Google, I like to look at the cover of the movie. That is literally where I pull a lot of my inspiration, is the cover of the movie, and I'll try to either copy that or, you know, use elements on that cover and try to piece it together. Because when a customer wants a Disney cake topper, most of the time they want it to look like something from the movie, something from the cover of the movie. If they have an invitation, they'll send you the invitation and you can just pull elements from what they're requesting and just piece it together. 99% of the time, I can't find the exact graphics, so I will just look on Design Space and try to pull graphics that look similar. The customer knows, I try to communicate with my customers that I'm not going to try to replicate this cover, this invitation, someone else's work. I'm going to pull inspiration from that, and I'm going to find my own graphics and try to create my own cake topper. So going back and watching the movie, going back and looking at the cover of the movie, looking at different graphics that are sold on Etsy, or going on Creative Fabrica and looking at different SVGs on there is a good way to get inspired as well. I also pull inspiration from my friends. They are super duper talented. They teach, they make tutorials, they post beautiful pictures and videos, and I'm constantly being inspired by them. They motivate me to think outside the box. They use techniques that sometimes I try out, and I just give it a shot. And I feel like if you're constantly creating, it will come more naturally to you to put designs together, because you're always in that space of creating. You're trying things out. Even if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, at least you give it a shot, and you'll use one tip from what you learned from that design on the next one, and you just end up getting better and better. So if I could give you any advice on designing and how to put together your own designs, I would say just get behind your computer and just start designing, start cutting and putting it together, and watch other people, see how they do their things. I'm not saying to, you know, copy their design, but try to mimic, you know, certain things. And I feel like with practice, you will get better and it will come a little bit more natural to you. Another tip that I wanted to give you was, don't be scared to experiment with different types of cardstock. There are different colors out there, a variety of colors. There are different textures. There's glitter cardstock, there's specialty paper, there are foil cardstock, even vinyl. Believe it or not, that ghost that I have right there is actually a glow-in-the-dark vinyl. And I like to play with all types of cardstock textures. I even like to add embellishments on my cake toppers. I'll see something nice at Michael's or Joann's and I'll pick it up and add it to my cake toppers just to give it a different touch, a unique look to it as well. Customers love receiving unique cake toppers and unique items, so don't be scared to experiment and play around with these things. That pack that I just pulled out is Barely Art's new item, new product that they just released. It is double-sided foam tape and squares in one pack. It's a starter kit and it has the perfect height. I want to say sorry for all the noise. Seriously, I've tried to record this video I don't know how many times, And if it's not a dog barking, it's my kids screaming in the background. So I just want to put that in there. If you have listened this far, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Back to the foam squares. This is the perfect height for what I'm doing here. I ended up making my haunted house 3D, which means that it elevated a little bit. And if I wanted to add this desert flat, I would not be able to. I would need to use some type of foam square. And normally I would have to add a few stacked foam squares, but because Barely Art's foam squares are the perfect height, you see that side view? They are thick and they're perfect for this type of design and this type of elevated look, 3D look. And so if you haven't tried it out, go to barelyart.com. I'll go ahead and list the link down below in my description. You can use Olivia Rose to receive 10% off of your purchase, and I just know you're going to love these foam squares. We're almost done with putting together our cake topper, and so far it looks so cute. I can't wait for you to see the final look. I did want to say that I forgot to cut my acetate for my bats. I want to give that effect that the bats are flying around the haunted house, but I forgot to cut the acetate in Design Space, so I ended up grabbing some scraps and I cut it by hand. And I'm going to cut it and make it a rectangle and cut it a little bit shorter to the size that I want my bat to be. And you'll see in just a minute what I'm going to do here. I'm going to glue my bat to this clear film, which is called acetate. And then I'm going to glue that to my cake topper and give it that flying bat effect. I did have a quick design change and decided that I wanted to add some text to my cake topper. I put Howdy Pumpkin because I thought it'd be super cute to add just some text to it. And I also added a pumpkin to one of the cactus on the left. And the pumpkin that I ended up using is an embellishment from Buttons Galore. And I love using embellishments, especially for these themed toppers. You'll go ahead and see in the final video of what that looks like. But I just did a quick little design change, and that's what I'm putting together. I'm putting together the text to add to the cake topper, and I can't wait for you to see it. We're just about ready to wrap up this cake topper, and if you've stuck around this long, I know this was a long video, but I really wanted to show my process and show you how I put together one of my cake toppers. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and hit the like button. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comment box below. And if you're really feeling generous, go ahead and share this video with your friends and bring them over to my channel so they can check out this groovy Halloween cake topper. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And now for the reveal of my groovy Halloween cake topper.